Was something inhuman caught on camera in southern Oregon? Or did a witness capture proof of an undiscovered species? A never-before-seen photograph tucked inside a long-forgotten incident report reveals a towering skeletal figure lurking in Oregon's forests. And whatever it was, it appeared dangerous and someone tried to hide the evidence. Welcome to Parks Unseen. I'm your host, Liam Wolf. Tonight, we're examining a document pulled from the buried archives of the National Park Service, evidence that might point to a species no one has officially acknowledged until now. Strangely, the report's top portion is missing, torn clean off, and the entire file shows signs of water damage, like the box had been absorbing drops of water for years like a sponge, making it impossible to determine exactly when this happened. The report date, case ID number, location, and time of the incident are all omitted from the report and remain unknown. But here's what we could recover. Reporting Officer, M. Clark. Incident Report Summary. A young couple was chased by a sickly or deformed, as yet unidentifiable creature while stopped near Rim Drive. Details of the encounter. At approximately 4 p.m., a man and a woman entered the ranger station in a distressed state. They claimed to have encountered a monster while walking near the wooded edge of Rim Drive. According to their statement, they had been driving slowly along Rim Drive in their station wagon, with the woman in the passenger seat using a film camera to photograph wildlife. Early into their drive, she captured images of mule deer, Steller's jays, and other common native animals. Roughly 10 minutes in, she spotted an unfamiliar figure moving upright through the trees and asked her husband to stop the vehicle. Due to poor lighting conditions, she exited the vehicle alone to try and get a better view. When she did not return for several minutes, the man followed her into the woods. Shortly afterward, the woman emerged from a thicket in a panic, urging him to return to the car. While attempting to leave the area, both reported seeing a tall, gaunt figure with dark, fleshy skin and elongated limbs through the passenger side window. Believing themselves to be in immediate danger, they sped to the station without delay. They couldn't provide an exact location, but based on their route and description, I determined they had likely stopped near the Sun Notch Trail, just off the East Rim. I arrived at the trailhead shortly before sunset and parked near the turnout. About 20 meters off trail into the woods, I found a pair of sunshades by a pine tree and a small set of footprints nearby. I followed this trail several meters into thicker brush before the forest looped back to the road. My vehicle was still visible across the slope. As I followed the direction of the footprints back into the woods, the light began to fade. I noticed the forest had grown unusually quiet. No bird calls or any movement from squirrels or hares on the ground. Then, about 30 feet ahead, I heard a sharp screech. My first thought was a fox, but the tone was off. Next came a series of clicking noises, rhythmic and deliberate, like a woodpecker, only it sounded deeper in pitch, like it came from a much larger animal. I started following the trail in the direction of the sounds when, roughly 15 feet away, I heard rustling. That's when I saw it. I'll do my best to describe what I witnessed. The creature moved low to the ground, walking on all fours with erratic movements like it was injured or in pain. Its back legs bent backward at the knee. It had mottled skin, pale gray and bare in most places, with scattered patches of matted fur. It was unnaturally thin, almost skeletal. Its ribs were clearly visible from the side. When it turned towards my direction, I quickly ducked behind a tree. As it continued moving, I saw that it had risen to its hind legs. Upright, it appeared close to 7 feet tall. It stepped forward into a clearing and circled a patch of sunlight on the forest floor. I saw its face more clearly then. Its head was elongated without visible ears and its eyes were sunken and reflective. There was no visible snout, no nose that I could see. The teeth, which briefly showed when it vocalized, were crooked and broken. The sound it made was not a growl or a screech, but a kind of distorted vocal clicking. The wind shifted and I caught its scent, the smell of rotting meat mixed with something acrid like sulfur. It burned the back of my throat. I judged the creature to be potentially aggressive, although in truth, I've never seen anything like it before and don't know what it's capable of. Since I was unarmed, I retreated toward the road as quickly and quietly as possible. Back at my truck, I waited a few minutes before heading back. A sedan passed behind me, and I advised the group to continue their drive promptly and avoid stopping for any reason. At the station, I informed the couple that they had likely seen a rabid or deformed black bear, possibly injured and hunting for food. They seemed unconvinced. The woman offered to have the film developed at the pharmacy and mailed to the station, insisting she had photographed the figure clearly. Any relevant photographic material will be attached to this report upon receipt. The bottom portion of the report is unintelligible due to water damage. Maybe the files were mishandled, or were damaged during an office flood, or maybe they were simply dismissed and left to fade away in a damp storage box somewhere. Fortunately, the film appears to have been developed. Tucked in with the report was a single photograph, and it paints a chilling picture of what they saw that day. The photo paper is severely deteriorated, curling from water spots and yellowed with age. We consulted a few experts to determine the type of paper stock and chemical process used to date it, but the results were inconclusive. However, they agreed it's at least 60 to 70 years old, which would date this photo to the late 1940s or early 50s, the oldest we've yet seen in the lost archives. Still, even through the damage, you can make out the image, an upright figure, tall and thin, with a long head, slender limbs, and reflective eyes. So, what is this thing? Now, maybe it's the skeptic in me, but whatever they saw out there, it wasn't a black bear, right? Not even a sick or deformed one would ever quite fit that chilling description. And to that end, why did the ranger treat it like a threat? Why back away slowly, stay hidden, and warn tourists to keep moving and not stop? It's simple. Something about this encounter shook him deeply, and we're going to try to figure out what. Looking back at the ranger report, it's hard to say exactly when and where this happened. The date is missing, and the lower part of the page is too faded to make out. But there are a few clues we can point at to help determine the possibilities. First, a quick Google search of Rim Drive and the Sun Notch Trail makes it pretty clear we're looking at Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. What's less clear is what happened afterward. We don't know what actions were taken, or if the ranger ever did a follow-up investigation. It just ends. In addition to the photo paper analysis, the report contains a few subtle hints about when this incident might have taken place. The couple was driving a station wagon, a style most common in the mid-1900s. The woman was using a film camera and planned to have the film developed at a local pharmacy, something typical before modern photo labs and digital cameras. The mention of sunshades also points to an older language usage. And if the date can be narrowed down by context, maybe the creature can too, at least based on how it moved and what it looked like. First, it walked on all fours, but with its back legs bending the wrong way. That's more like a deer. And sure, black-tailed deer, elk, and mule deer are all common around Crater Lake. But that's really the only detail that fits. Ranger Clark also noted that it had mottled gray skin with patches of matted fur, classic signs of mange, which does affect black bears. And mange can leave a bear in rough shape, skinny, patchy, maybe even hard to recognize. But here's the thing. This creature stood up. Not just briefly, it stood and walked upright. Even healthy bears can't do that for long, let alone a sick one. Then there's the head, elongated without ears or a visible snout. That doesn't match any local wildlife. Bears and deer both have snouts. Mountain lions have flatter faces, but they still have distinct features. And while mountain lions can screech, this thing made a distinct clicking sound, unnatural, and nothing like a cat. Put all of that together, and we're left with a creature that doesn't line up with any single known animal species. And honestly, that's the part that gets me. I've gone through a lot of these reports, and this keeps coming up. Rangers describing something they can't categorize, something that doesn't quite fit. Based on the details, I have to be honest, I can't pinpoint exactly what this creature is either. And while it shares some traits with famous cryptids, it doesn't fully match any one of them. The most obvious comparison people jump to is Sasquatch. Reported across the Pacific Northwest for decades, Sasquatch sightings usually describe a massive, upright creature covered in dark, matted hair, standing between 7 and 9 feet tall. This Oregon creature was reportedly just as tall and did have matted fur, but only in scattered patches and on top of mottled gray skin, which isn't a Sasquatch characteristic. And where Sasquatch is typically broad-shouldered and muscular, this thing appeared gaunt, almost sickly. Sasquatch is also known for consistently walking upright, but this creature moved erratically, switching between 4 legs and 2. Most importantly, there were no footprints noted in the report, only that its legs bent backward, like those of a deer or a canine. That brings us to the dogman. Witnesses often describe a tall, canine-like creature that walks upright, with legs shaped like those of a dog or wolf. There are some eerie similarities: the backward bending legs, the glowing eyes, and the upright posture. And that strange, elongated head could line up with certain dogman reports, where the snout appears distorted or oversized. What doesn't match, however, is the sound. The creature in the report was screeching and making clicking noises, while dogman is typically described as letting out guttural howls. If anything, these clicking sounds feel almost insect-like, which leads us to the Mothman. First reported in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the 1960s, Mothman is said to be a humanoid figure with glowing red eyes and massive wings. It's often considered an omen, appearing before disasters and disappearing just as mysteriously. The glowing eyes and the strange screeching or clicking sounds do match some aspects of Mothman sightings, but that's where the similarities end. There were no wings or any signs of flight. Whatever was seen in the Oregon woods doesn't quite match the Mothman legend either. Could it have been a chupacabra? First reported in Puerto Rico in the 1990s, this creature is often described as a small animal with leathery skin, spines sticking up its back, and a reptilian or canine appearance. Other sightings, especially in the American Southwest, describe it more like a hairless, sickly dog. This Oregon creature had mottled, bare skin and gave off a strong odor, both of which are consistent with those dog-like chupacabra reports. The erratic movements and emaciated frame also loosely match, but the scale is way off. Chupacabras are usually described as 3 to 4 feet tall, not towering at 7 feet. Then there's the skunk ape. Sighted mostly in Florida and the southeastern U.S., it's described as a tall, muscular ape-like creature, covered in reddish-brown or dark hair, known for its horrible stench and glowing eyes. There are some points of overlap. The stench, the upright posture, and the reflective eyes are all present in the Oregon creature, but the differences stand out more. The skunk ape is fully covered in hair, while the ranger described patchy fur over exposed skin. Skunk apes also tend to move smoothly on 2 legs, not shifting between 2 and 4 legs. And again, the clicking sounds have never been associated with this cryptid. A Wendigo theory briefly crossed my mind, but at the end of the day, I can't let go of the possibility that this could have actually been a skinwalker. Rooted in Navajo legend, skinwalkers are said to be shapeshifters, humans who take the form of animals, usually wolves, coyotes, or deer. They're often described with glowing eyes and distorted vocalizations. This matches a few details: the backward bending legs, the deer-like movement, and the unnatural clicking sounds. The creature's thin body also fits some modern skinwalker accounts, but there are some key differences. Skinwalkers are almost always tied to mimicry or transformation, none of which is mentioned here. And geographically, Crater Lake is far from the Four Corners region, where most skinwalker reports originate. I scoured Lauren Coleman's book, Cryptozoology, A to Z, assuming this was simply a lesser-known cryptid, but one that had already been identified and cataloged, one with a cultural connection, or a history of sightings, or even an illustration. But I came up empty-handed. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of lesser-known cryptids, like the Mangwa, Bunyip, or the Mapinguari, that pop into mind. But their descriptions and habitats don't really line up with what was reported here. Since they're too different, it's hard to draw any meaningful comparison. So that only leaves us with one possibility. What if this is something new? A cryptid that's never been documented until now? What do you think? Have you ever encountered anything like this? Or do you have your own theory about what it might be? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take on this mysterious creature. With so many key details left out of the original report, we're left with more questions than answers. Not only does the photo stand alone as the oldest and most mysterious in our box of NPS documents, but across all known records and reports we've been able to find online and beyond. It remains the most compelling piece of evidence, truly one of a kind across every cryptid archive we've searched. Maybe this really was a one-time encounter, or whatever damaged the report, whether it was time, weather, or neglect, also buried any chance of a proper investigation. If you've ever encountered something like this, something unexplainable in the forests of southern Oregon or beyond, we want to hear from you. The more details we can gather, the closer we might get to identifying what this creature really is. Thanks for joining us on another investigation into the hidden archives of our national parks. Until next time, stay curious and keep your eyes open. You never know what secrets may be lurking, waiting to be unveiled in the great expanse of parks unseen.